Well, this looks different. Hey there everybody, this is Tiger Eye Gaming and welcome to my overview of the Experimental Snapshot for Minecraft 1.18, released on July 13th, 2021. I haven't done a video like this where I talk about snapshots before, so if this is something you enjoy, please do let me know in the comments down below. If you're here for my hardcore let's play, which you can check out by clicking the little eye at the top of the screen, wink wink, nudge nudge, don't worry, the next episode is coming out soon, hopefully in the next few days. I haven't managed to die yet, which is definitely a plus considering the last 2 tries. Now, as for this snapshot, I decided to cover this one in particular because there's actually a new change in it that we'll talk about soon that fundamentally changes one of Minecraft's most important mechanics. Before we get there, however, this is an experimental snapshot, which means a couple of things. For one, you'll have to go to the Minecraft website to download it, as it's not currently available directly through the launcher. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description of this video for the download and instructions. The second thing is that this snapshot is not compatible with old worlds at the moment, so if you want to explore in it, you'll have to go ahead and create a new world like I've done here. As you can see, there's also not even an option to play on these old worlds. It says created by an incompatible version in red, so you will have to create a new world like this. As you can see, I have done that, so let's go ahead and pop in and see what it's like. Real quick before we begin reviewing the snapshot, I just want to say that if you enjoy this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It's free, you can always change your mind, and it really helps me grow the channel. Thanks, and now let's get into it. Alright, we are back in this generated world, and, well, the first thing I want to note is that the biomes just generally look a little bit weird. So first of all, we have this big old Badlands biome, you know, with the hardened clay on top, which makes sense. We then have it next to a forest, which is a little unusual, but also makes sense. But we then have this isolated Badlands that doesn't actually connect to the other Badlands at all. It's just segmented by this thin little strip of forest, and it's next to a desert as well as that little bit of forest. So that struck me as a little bit weird. And then another thing that struck me as a little bit weird, right in the middle of the desert, we just happen to have this snow patch. Let me get over it. Yeah, there we go, snowy slopes. So right in the middle of this big old desert, we just have some snowy slopes. And this little sand bunny seems to have hopped right into it. So that also struck me as a little bit weird, and even just flying throughout the world, you'll see more things like this. For example, here, yeah, this tiny little patch of Badlands isn't connected to the bigger patch of Badlands either. And from the other videos I've watched, other people reviewing the snapshot, it seems that things like this are happening pretty frequently in other people's worlds as well. You know, you get these tiny little biomes spawning in places where it doesn't really make sense for them to spawn. Of course, this is an experimental snapshot, so there's a very high likelihood that these are just little bugs or little features that they haven't quite ironed out yet. But hey, speaking of these weird little blobs, let's go ahead and get into the official list of changes compared to Caves and Cliffs Part 1, as posted by the Minecraft developers. The first one that I'm going to talk about concerning these weird little blobs is now, natural variation in terrain shape and elevation occurs independently from biomes. For example, forests and this Badlands biome could form up on a hill without needing a special biome to do that. In the past, you'd often see things like forest hills in the little biome selector on the F3 screen. But now if we go ahead and hover up over this, yep, it just says forest. So you don't see forest hills, it just says forest, even though this terrain is up high where, you know, in past versions of Minecraft it likely would have said forest hills. This is because of that new change that now enables land to generate at similar heights to the land around it without needing to spawn in a specifically different biome, like forest hills or desert hills or Badland hills. I don't know if the Badland one was called that, but I'm just assuming. So now these lands will spawn at similar heights to the land around them without needing a specific new biome to do so. Because of this change, I believe that's why you get some weirdness like this little Badlands biome completely surrounded by desert and plains on this side, not connected to this larger Badlands biome over here. In other people's videos, also covering this same snapshot, I've seen a lot of similar weirdness, with tiny little dark oak forests, for example, spawning in a massive plains, or small little deserts spawning surrounded by other biomes, so it seems like there is still some tweaking to do with this. I'm assuming before the full edition comes out, the Minecraft developers will likely tweak and change it so that the biomes make a little bit more sense. However, I mean, if they don't, could definitely lead to some really fun Minecraft worlds. The next change that I wanted to talk about is, in fact, related to this obnoxiously tall pillar. This is a change that came out in the snapshots released before the Caves and Cliffs update was split in two, so some of you may already be aware of it. Just in case, since it was included in the change notes for this snapshot, I'm going to go over it quickly. I'll go ahead and just teleport myself up to y equals 320, and we will see that this is now the world height limit. I just tried to right click on this block, but I cannot build higher than 319, as you can see in that little error message that pops up if I try to right click. You cannot place blocks above this one right here, so you end up being able to stand on y equals 320 and no higher. Of course, you can always fly higher with Elytra or with creative mode. Oh, there we go. But you cannot build higher than this. This has been upgraded from a current world height limit of y equals 256, so it's a bit of an upgrade there. On the other end of the spectrum, the bottom of the world has also gotten lower. As we can see in this handy hole I dug, we can now dig down past y equals 0, which should be around about here. Yep, we are now in the negative y, and we can go all the way down to y equals negative 64. Yep, there we go, the bottom of the world, y equals negative 64. This means that the total height of a Minecraft world is now 384 blocks, as compared to 256 blocks before. Next up, there are 5 new mountain biomes, which I believe are all new from the already released snapshots for the Caves and Cliffs update. This one right here is a lofty peaks biome. This one right here is a snow-capped peaks, as you can see in the F3 screen. Also note the packed ice. This is the only one of the new biomes where packed ice will naturally spawn. Next up is the Grove, which seems to be characterized by slightly flatter terrain overall, as well as a whole bunch of spruce trees. Just upwards from the Grove, we have a Snowy Slopes biome, which seems to be a little bit higher, also angled upwards. I'm not sure if that's necessarily significant. There do seem to be less trees in this biome as well. And finally, we also have the Meadow. Now, at first glance, this kind of just looks like a normal plains biome. I think the main difference might be that it's at a higher elevation. We're currently at just about y equals 110 on the ground. There is some snow, which I'm not sure if naturally spawned in or if it spawned in when it snowed for a little while on this world. But yeah, lots of animals seem to be able to spawn, and it does seem to just resemble a normal plains biome for the most part, just up really high. But those are the 5 new mountain biome types announced in this snapshot. Along with those 5 new mountain biomes, we also have 3 new cave types that are going to spawn in the upcoming 1.18 update. The first one is called a cheese cave. According to the Minecraft wiki, cheese caves are pocket areas of the underground that can come in various sizes. We also have spaghetti caves, which are long, narrow caves that wind their way through the underground and are similar to smaller medium caves that currently exist in Minecraft. And then finally, we have noodle caves, which are a thinner and squigglier variant of spaghetti caves. Those 3, I believe, were all introduced in the snapshots that have already been released, so I'm sure you've already seen some examples of them. But yeah, even just a little bit of exploring can show you little things like this, which I think would be a spaghetti cave, or no, I'd say this is a noodle cave because it looks pretty thin and squiggly. But yeah, even just a little bit of exploration here underground can reveal to you a whole bunch of different looking caves, including some that look like the old Minecraft style, but a whole bunch of ones that look entirely new. Another change that you might already be familiar with from the snapshots that were already released is local water levels and lava levels in the underground. We are currently at y level negative 16, and we've got this whole little underground lake, which definitely wouldn't have spawned in prior editions of Minecraft. I've lit it up a little bit with lanterns just to get a better view, but man, doesn't this look good? This right here is honestly one of the biggest reasons why I'm so excited for this update. It just creates so many opportunities to do cool stuff with these massive naturally spawning underground caves. Whew, just look at this, man. I love it. Super excited for this update. Well, I was trying to find an example of a lush cave, but it kind of just teleported me into the middle of a bunch of stone here, so let's go ahead and try again. And here we go. Lush cave biome successfully found. I think the issue last time might have been that I didn't dig down deep enough when it spawned me into the stone, so A little bit buggy, but I also could have just dug down. Now, man, this is an odd little clay formation here, but I really do like how these lush caves look. Even just this tiny little section here adds so much life to these caves. Looks beautiful. We got the azalea, we got some moss carpets. Let's see, what else do we got? We got some grass and tall grass spawning in here. We even got some glowberries. Now, these lush caves actually fit in pretty nicely with what I want to talk about towards the end of this video, that massive change that I mentioned that's going to change Minecraft mechanics. Once I removed all those extra lanterns, especially once you get close to these glowberries, look how bright it is around here. Yeah, looks like it would be difficult for mobs to spawn, even if things were staying exactly the same there. Ooh, I wonder what that last change we're going to talk about today could be. However, just before we get to that final change, there are 3 more things to cover, all of which have been released in snapshots up to this point already. So the first one that I want to cover is this approximate ore distribution for Minecraft 1.18. As you can see in this big red watermark, it is still not final. They've already changed it a couple of times, I believe, so certainly wouldn't be surprised to see a few more changes before it is final in the 1.18 update. But essentially, the change here relates to making certain ores more or less likely to be found at certain levels. Whereas in the past, as you can see in this diagram on the right, most of these ores were equally likely to be found at any of the levels where they were available, i.e. you could find diamonds in roughly equal amounts anywhere from y equals 0 to y equals 16, similar with redstone, iron, same but a little bit higher, and so on and so forth. Whereas now, the lower down you go in the world, the more likely you are to find diamonds. Iron is most likely to be found right around this level, where the triangle is widest, and it's less likely to be found up here where the triangle is more narrow. That same principle applies to all these different ores, so redstone, copper, iron, diamonds, lapis, gold, coal, and emeralds. The best way, I think, to take in this information is just to study the graph for a little bit. Might be a little bit more difficult for me to describe it in words than for you to just take a look, but I'm excited for this change too, because it's definitely going to introduce more tactical mining than in the past. In the past, you could kind of just set up a strip mine or a branch mine at y equals 11 and find a whole bunch of different items, whereas now you might need to set up different strip mines for redstone and diamonds versus iron and lapis, or you might need to go into different caves to find different items. There are a whole bunch of different strategies that you can employ, and it's definitely going to add a few more extra wrinkles into mining for items. Another change shown off in a prior snapshot is the inclusion of large ore veins, as you can see in the screenshot tweeted by one of the Minecraft developers. As you can see down here in the bottom left, this ore vein seems to be primarily iron ore, along with a couple of gold ore, accompanied by a whole lot of tuff, or I think that's tough. I'm still trying to get all the new stone variants down, but essentially it's a whole bunch of different ores, primarily iron, included with a long string of tuff, and well, it certainly seems like a powerful way to get some iron, especially if you're able to find one of these early game. Up here, in the top right, we seem to have a similar thing, but it seems to be primarily copper, also a little bit of iron mixed in, but primarily copper, with granite being the main connecting stone here. So in general, these large ore veins seem to be a combination of ores mixed with certain stones, and well, as you can see in this picture, they are definitely a powerful way to get a whole bunch of a certain ore. Just look how huge these things are. The developers have been careful to say that these could be rebalanced and tweaked in the future, so if you have any specific thoughts on them, definitely leave a comment down below, and let them know your feedback on Twitter or any other social media where you know they might be. Finally, the last change left over from the earlier snapshots is that the team have integrated the new caves, cave entrances, and mountains into these worlds. Basically what that means is that you'll be able to find the new caves, find their new cave entrances, and you'll be able to find the new mega huge mountains. With that all said, let's get on to the super exciting change that I mentioned at the start of this video. Oh, that's foreboding. And now, we're finally on to what I think might low-key be one of the biggest changes to Minecraft in a few years. Whereas before, mobs would only spawn in with a light level of 7 or less, they now require complete darkness to spawn in. This, even though it might not seem like a lot to some of you at first, this is actually a huge departure for something that's pretty much been the same. I know it's been the same ever since I started playing the game. I think it's been the same since pretty much the very start of Minecraft. In the past, one single torch would prevent mobs from spawning all the way out to anywhere on this deep slate platform. Of course, it's bright outside, but if you look at the block light level rather than the sky light level, that's how far one torch would prevent mobs from spawning, is this deep slate. The gold represents how far one lantern or sea lantern or jack-o'-lantern or anything with a light level of 15 would prevent mobs from spawning, since a torch has a light level of 14. Now, however, if we go on over, well, first, take a look at this platform, all right? 6 blocks out for each torch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 7 for a lantern or sea lantern, etc. Now we go over here, and this is how much one torch will prevent from spawning, is the deep slate. The gold, again, represents a lantern, sea lantern, jack-o'-lantern, etc. Glowstone as well. Look at that difference. It is amazing. If you compare these two little squares to each other, it's unbelievable. Well, I guess they're diamonds. If you compare these two diamonds to each other, this is low-key a massive, massive change. If we come down here, standing on that torch, yep, block level is 14, so we can go all the way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 blocks out before finally one torch would let a mob spawn away. This is a huge, huge change. If you're a big builder, you can now finally use mood lighting in your builds without having to worry about 1,000 creepers spawning in and blowing up all your hard work. If you're a big miner, you can now strip mine or branch mine without having to worry all the time about placing torches every 11 blocks in a branch mine. That number's been ingrained into my head for so long, and it looks like with the 1.18 update, that number's finally going to change. This really is, low-key, one of the biggest quality of life changes that I think we've had in a long time, and it's one of the biggest things that the Minecraft developers could have made. Now, part of me almost thinks that this makes the game a little bit too easy, that it makes it too easy to prevent mobs from spawning in. But when I take a second and I think about it, really, I think what this does is just make it a lot easier for the player to prevent mobs from spawning in. Whereas before, players had to be a lot more meticulous about making sure the light level never equaled 7 or below in any potentially dark little spots. Now basically all you need is just some lighting in the area and you should be set. If you use lanterns in your builds, like, that'll cover a huge amount of space. This right here is a huge diamond compared to the other. I know I'm sort of repeating myself, but it really is a significant change. Oh my god. Okay, quick tangent from the whole lighting thing, but isn't this beautiful? Oh my god, look at this. It's a massive underground area. Wow. This is why I am so excited for this update. Look how pretty this is. We got so many glowberries up there. It's an absolutely massive area. Wow. Wow. But okay, I don't want to get too distracted, rather. The reason why I came down here was actually looking for some of these, because related to what I said earlier about the Lush caves, this lighting change actually does significantly change the Lush caves. Now, particularly because of these guys, along with glow lichen to a lesser extent, it's going to be a lot calmer in Lush caves, especially compared to some of the other cave variants. I'm not sure exactly how much these vines typically tend to provide. I think it might be the berries themselves that provide most of the lighting. Not 100% sure, but as you can see, this is comparable to a torch pretty much. So anywhere that you see these glowberries spawning in, it's going to do a whole lot to reduce mobs spawning in the area, especially since, you know, the area in which they prevent mob spawning is so drastically increased now. Even as you can see down there in some of the dimmer patches, even glow lichen will actually do a decent amount now to prevent mob spawning, whereas before, honestly, didn't do anything at all. Yeah, I think some people were kind of disappointed with how little it did. But now, like, as you can see, even though this is a huge, super tall area, there's actually a decent amount of spots that are prevented from spawning. However, if we go down into a smaller area like this, where there's not such a huge gap between the glowberries at the top and the floor, this pretty much doesn't have any spawnable spaces for mobs, especially within this lush area here with all the moss on the ground. But even in between, like, there might be 1 or 2 spots where a mob can spawn in. No, it doesn't even look like there's any. So this really makes the dynamic in these lush caves a lot different from what you'll see in a lot of other areas, because mobs are gonna have a much more difficult time spawning in. Yeah, you can see in this cave, I mean, we haven't run across a single mob, and that's in large part due to these glowberry vines, as well as, to a lesser extent, the glow lichen on the walls. Yeah, now even glow lichen, with their tiny little light source of something like 4, I think, can actually affect mob spawning in caves. Yeah, this is going to be huge. It's going to hugely affect the ambiance of these caves as well, where once you find a little lush cave, you actually are able to relax and not worry about a creeper snaking up and breaking all the beautiful vegetation. So with that all said, as we hang out in this beautiful and ginormous cave, I think that just about wraps this snapshot review up. I am super excited for the future of this update. I've been excited ever since they released some of the other snapshots before 1.17, and I'm even more excited now. This mob spawning only in complete darkness thing really came out of nowhere for me, and it is fundamentally going to change the way a lot of people play this game. I'm super excited for what the future holds. The last time I was this excited for an update was the update Aquatic, I think, which honestly got me back into the game after a few years of just not having time to play. This is definitely going to be a game changer. I am super excited to start a new world and just have a base in a spot like this. With the changes that we talked about today, I mean, it should be a lot easier to prevent mobs from spawning in and taking out all your hard work. So, yeah, just a few torches here and there, maybe a few lanterns, is actually going to do a whole lot to prevent them from spawning in. But hey, with that all said, if you've enjoyed this video, like I mentioned earlier, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out, and it really will encourage me to keep going and make more videos. I'm definitely enjoying this, and this update has me super excited for the future of Minecraft, so I would love to be able to do this more regularly. But with that all said, thank you all very much for watching. Have fun trying out this new snapshot, and I'll see you later.